On March 18, 2025, something happened inside the French National Assembly that has no equivalent in modern American governance. Lawmakers, military officials, scientists, and representatives from GEIPAN, France's government-funded UFO investigation unit, sat down together in an official parliamentary colloquium to discuss unidentified aerospace phenomena. Not behind closed doors, not in a classified briefing, in a formal, transparent, institutional setting. The event was organized by a cross-party group of French deputies, and it featured presentations from CNES, France's national space agency, alongside defense analysts and academic researchers. France didn't just talk about UAP, it brought the actual investigators into Parliament and let them present their data. For those unfamiliar, GEIPAN is the Groupe d'études et d'information sur les phénomènes aérospatiaux non identifiés. It has operated under CNES since 1977, nearly 50 years of continuous government-funded UAP investigation. That is not a typo. While the United States has cycled through Blue Book, AATIP, UAPTF, and now AARO, each one launched, starved of resources, and shuttered or restructured, France maintained a single institutional body with consistent methodology, public-facing data, and scientific oversight. GEIPAN publishes its case files online. Anyone can access them. This matters enormously because the classification system GEIPAN uses tells a story the U.S. government has never been willing to tell publicly. GEIPAN classifies every reported case into 4 categories. Type A, fully identified. Type B, probably identified but with some ambiguity. Type C, insufficient data to draw conclusions. And Type D, thoroughly investigated, corroborated by multiple data sources, and still unexplained. That last category is the one that matters. As of GEIPAN's most recent published statistics, roughly 3 to 4% of all cases, over 130 investigations, fall into Type D. These are not ambiguous sightings from unreliable witnesses. These are cases where radar data, pilot testimony, ground observations, and sometimes physical trace evidence were analyzed by trained scientists, and no conventional explanation could be found. 3% sounds small, but across thousands of investigated cases over nearly 5 decades, it represents a persistent, irreducible residual of genuine unknowns. That residual is what the March colloquium addressed head-on. Consider the Trans-en-Provence case from January 1981. A witness reported an object landing briefly in a field. GEIPAN investigators arrived within days, collected soil and vegetation samples, and commissioned laboratory analysis. The results, published in a CNES technical note, showed biochemical changes in the plant chlorophyll and measurable ground compression inconsistent with any identified cause. This case remains classified Type D. It has never been debunked.
And it was investigated with a rigor that most American UAP cases never receive. GEIPAN Director Vincent Costes, who presented at the March colloquium, has emphasized that the unit's methodology prioritizes eliminating conventional explanations before any case reaches D-class status. The unknowns aren't unknowns because nobody looked. They're unknowns because the looking didn't resolve them. Now compare this to AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. AARO was established in 2022. Its first director, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, resigned in December 2023, publicly complaining about political interference and insufficient resources. His successor, John Koslowski, inherited an office with a credibility deficit and a classified reporting structure that keeps most findings hidden from the public and even from Congress. AARO's historical review, released in March 2024, concluded controversially that there was no evidence of extraterrestrial technology or government cover-up. Multiple witnesses, including whistleblower David Grusch, have disputed this under oath. The structural difference is stark. GEIPAN operates transparently within a scientific agency. AARO operates within the Department of Defense, behind classification barriers, with a history of leadership turnover and institutional resistance. France embedded UAP research in science. America embedded it in secrecy. The March 2025 colloquium wasn't an isolated event. It reflects growing parliamentary engagement across multiple countries. In late 2024, the European Parliament hosted discussions on UAP transparency. Brazil has maintained its own declassification program. Japan updated its UAP reporting guidelines for military pilots. And in France, the cross-party group behind the colloquium explicitly called for expanded GEIPAN funding and deeper integration of UAP data with European defense networks. When parliaments act, it signals institutional legitimacy. It tells scientists they can research the topic without career risk. It tells military personnel they can report without stigma. And it tells the public that the question is being taken seriously by the people they elected. Meanwhile, in Washington, the UAP Disclosure Act, championed by Senators Gillibrand, Rounds, and the late Harry Reid's legacy, was gutted during the 2024 NDAA negotiations. Key provisions for an independent review board with subpoena power were stripped under lobbying pressure from defense contractors and intelligence community stakeholders, according to reporting by the Daily Mail, Liberation Times, and researchers like Matthew Pines. The eminent domain hearings in the House, led by Representatives Luna and Burchett, generated dramatic testimony but no binding legislative action. Congress held hearings, Congress expressed outrage, and then Congress moved on. The international comparison makes this inaction harder to defend.
If France can maintain a transparent UAP research body for 50 years, the argument that the US cannot do the same becomes increasingly difficult to sustain without acknowledging that the barrier isn't capability, it's political will. The significance of the French colloquium isn't that it revealed new evidence. It didn't. The significance is what it represents structurally, a mature democracy treating UAP as a legitimate subject of parliamentary inquiry backed by decades of institutional science. GEIPAN's D-class cases remain unexplained, not because they're mysterious, but because they're genuinely anomalous under rigorous analysis. The question facing the international community is no longer whether UAP deserves serious investigation. France answered that in 1977. The question is whether the country with the largest defense budget on Earth will match the transparency of a French research office operating on a fraction of the resources. The data exists. The institutions exist elsewhere. The only thing missing is the political courage to let the public see what governments already know they can't explain.